I equate it to a journey. I believe that journey speak is applicable to what we do on LinkedIn. We start out all the same on this journey. We start out with a blank internet page, a
Yeah.
profile, and it's how we populate this page that sets us up for the decisions that we want because there's a decision everywhere we move on this site, whether it's the products we sell, the services we offer, or just being a first degree connection for someone. It's going to be based on a view of this singular LinkedIn profile page. So,
And I'm very happy to have with us today JD Gershbein. Since 2006, JD has been at the forefront of the LinkedIn conversation. One of the world's first independent LinkedIn consultants and a pioneer in LinkedIn education, JD serves ambitious professionals striving to make their mark on the digital age. As a speaker, facilitator, writer, and media producer, he draws upon a diverse academic background, a fusion of psychology, neuroscience, and the humanities, and an improvisational skill that he honed at Chicago's famed Second City to bridge the knowledge gap that exists between business people and people in the virtual world. He's widely regarded as a leader in personal branding, social networking, social entrepreneurship. JD is blazing a trail as one of the most original personalities in the professional development area. My goodness, JD, that is, I give a lot of compliments to the CVs. They're impressive, and this one is just as impressive as the others I've seen. It's amazing.
well, it's a lot to live up to, Andrew. I'll do my best in our time together here.
Well, if you work with Second City, I expect to see some, Martin Short or somebody. You got Eugene
Really?
Levy. You got to have some comedy here. Come on.
Well, I'll tell you, I guess that's my differentiator. I believe that improv is a valuable cognitive framework for something like LinkedIn, for all of communication arts, really. And I've been a student, a proponent, a practitioner, performer, and I learned something new about our human ability to improvise every day. I'm learning something about it right now, as a matter of
Yeah,
fact.
we're definitely. I will definitely take you down some improvisational holes. Um,
Okay.
but let's start out just a little bit with kind of an overview of who you are, how you got to where you are, just so that our readers can or our listeners can kind of catch up.
Very nice of you to have me here, Andrew, and thank you very much. I'm a marketer by trade. In during the holiday season of 2006, my eyes locked with LinkedIn, and it was love at first sight. I haven't
Mhm.
shut up about the site since. And as we sit here and tape today in February of 2023, I'm 17 years into my practice as a LinkedIn specialist. So I've really kind of stayed true to my specialty and stayed in my lane.
Mhm.
I have done everything related to LinkedIn that I think is possible at this point. I've worked the site, I've studied it rigorously, and what I bring to business people today is this platform of a new frontier. I think
Mhm.
that we're long enough into it. We're a generation now into social media since the onset of the social media revolution. What have we learned as a species about how this thing works? And now, as we start to bridge the gap into more sophisticated modes of automation, what does the future really hold for us as humans to express ourselves on social platforms?
Yeah.
And around the business conversation, that would be LinkedIn, and that's where you'll find me.
Yeah, and absolutely, I think LinkedIn is currently underestimated, even as ubiquitous as it's become, and even as many people that have adopted it, obviously as there is, there's still a
Mhm.
lot of blind spots on it. I can't tell you how many times in my business that I run into somebody, not necessarily somebody that's a well-established CEO, but run into people that
Mhm.
just don't have a presence on there, even like middle management, kind of semi-upper management, that just really haven't put that much into it.
There's only a small percentage of the total LinkedIn universe that is what we would call active on LinkedIn. You have folks who are basically just a repository for a resume, or they have only fleshed out a minimum aspect of their profile. They really haven't built a narrative or offer a story of any kind. So you have people who are accounts, but they're not really using LinkedIn the way that it should be used. Uh, More and more are activating every day. And I have to
Mhm.
say that as it gets more crowded and competitive out there in business, the stakes are going up everywhere, as we know. I think you're going to see more people take it upon themselves to learn this platform and up level their personal outreach.
Yeah. So what does it look like then to be more active with LinkedIn? Because yeah, you're talking about building a character. You're talking about,
Sure,
building and establishing their character on LinkedIn. I don't know
sure.
if everybody thinks of LinkedIn and thinks of I should build a character on LinkedIn. They don't really look at it. So tell us a little bit about what that looks like.
I equate it to a journey. I believe that journey speak is applicable to what we do on LinkedIn. We start out all the same on this journey. We start out with a blank internet page, a
Yeah.
profile, and it's how we populate this page that sets us up for the decisions that we want, because there's a decision everywhere we move on this site, whether it's the products we sell, the services we offer, or just being a first degree connection for someone. It's going to be based on a view of this singular LinkedIn profile page. So what we bring to it in the early stages of setting up our presence on LinkedIn is going to dictate our outcomes. And more people are active in at least rejuvenating or re-energizing or recalibrating themselves in the profile. So that is part of being active on LinkedIn. But truthfully, Andrew, activity equates to having a voice on the site.
Mhm.
Within the community, on the homepage, posting content, commenting on the posts of others, writing articles, or just putting out articles to share that speak to your industry expertise. And for the most part, personal outreach is activity on LinkedIn. When you're
Mhm.
messaging people one-on-one, more and more we're finding that it all drips into this huge concavity. Some people call it a funnel, but it's where all the conversations have the potential of becoming something special on LinkedIn through the inbox. How you message people directly is going to truthfully drive your outcomes.
Yeah, and you're preaching to the choir with us. I'm leading you down these questions, but yeah, just for our audience's
Mhm.
information, a lot of what we built at Leaders Press, we built through LinkedIn. We built through direct one-on-one conversations. I mean, down to the point when I was in sales of sitting down every day and spending 7 or 8 hours of bleeding fingers, and
There
everyone's
you
like,
go.
you have such a wonderful chat bot that's responding to us. And I'm like,
Well, I think
it
that's the
sounds so good.
misnomer on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I think people realize that, okay, it's up there. It gives me a license to sell. And there's no selling per se on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is really just the bridge to get you into a meaningful conversation. And I define a meaningful conversation where both parties can really exchange on a level where the other knows what the other is all about.
Yeah.
And it has done more to shorten sales cycle and accelerate the buyer seller relationship than anything else. Although I don't really speak in terms of LinkedIn as transactional. I favor organic growth and
Mm.
organic conversation design, so that we're really in front of people where they're at. We meet them where they want us to meet them, as opposed to just having us fit a square peg into a round hole and sell a product.
Yeah, I mean that's just it. When you're a content creator and you're creating content for, like, say, LinkedIn, how do you differentiate between the pitfall of, maybe I'm going to plug this into an AI and create just
Mhm.
random content that's just going to be ads for me, or to build instead that relationship, something that you can build and cultivate over a long term?
Well, since the onset of the pandemic, one of the great human qualities that has come to the fore is authenticity.
Mhm.
And it's amazing to me that with all we're hearing about authenticity, that people resort to these ugly digital marketing programs and proliferate spammy automated sales messages. And that's seemingly all that goes on LinkedIn, or at least that's all that people want to report to someone like myself, who are voicing their displeasure with the
Yeah.
way that people handle themselves on LinkedIn. That has led me to cultivate what I call a LinkedIn style, kind of a guided implementation of things that we should be observing so that we don't offend the sensibilities of our fellow LinkedIn users. And the goal is to be a good LinkedIn citizen. And again, approach people respectfully, and don't
Mhm.
try to sell them a product right from the get-go. I mean, we're a much hipper, much more discerning audience nowadays. We do not take kindly to being sold right out of the gate. And unfortunately, most people want to bypass the process of relationship development and go right into their sales pitch.
Mhm.
And it's bad form.
And don't you want to really be directing your potential clientele off of social media that you don't control? Like, I mean, LinkedIn is really your, rather than being your end all be all, that's really your springboard to get them to start going to your website, to buy your book, to consume your content, isn't it?
Absolutely. I look at the LinkedIn profile as a gateway piece. If my goal, my whole MO is to keep people on my LinkedIn page as long as humanly possible. So I have to compel them, and
Yeah.
more than compel, I have to impel them. So there's an implicit call to action. I think much has been made these days about having a call to action, but really, I think people will make up their own minds if they want to act on you in any way. And if what they see on your page resonates with them, hits the high note, strikes a chord, they will be more motivated to get to your website, to get to your other online pages. And I think that's, again, the real value of LinkedIn is as that springboard piece, getting people to ideate around you, to conjure up a mental image about how you can help them. And from there, certainly to get the thread off of LinkedIn into regular email. I do have to say that many threads are better served on LinkedIn because of cybersecurity concerns and firewalling. And sometimes I can't get to an off LinkedIn email address, so I use LinkedIn as the medium.
So what do you say to somebody that may say to you, well, all of this sounds great, but this sounds like I got to produce a lot of content?
Content is certainly one of the driving aspects of LinkedIn success. And more people are rising up, liberating their voice, putting themselves out there, probably in more creative ways than they ever have before. I do see a lot of creativity out there on the homepage, aligned with a lot of the junk I see as well. But people are responding, and they realize that if they're going to have a presence on the site, it has to come through content, whether it's video, whether it's written, whether it's spoken. And we know that we're in a podcast boom. Heck, we're on a podcast right now.
Yeah, I know.
I'm going to use this content, Andrew. I'm going to leverage this content, but I think it's how we package ourselves. Are we doing it in a desirable way, an artful way? I advocate what I call artful self-promotion. There's plenty of people tooting their own horn and boasting about themselves on the site, but if you can do it in a way where, again, people are receptive to you, they like what they see, you're giving them something to hang on, cling on, and measure about you, you'll be better set up for these conversations that follow. So content also is a gateway into a more meaningful dialogue.
I like your passion about it, because I can definitely tell how much you like the concept of LinkedIn as a place in which we can all get connection. And in fact, that's really what people have to look at it for. They have to realize that now we have tools in which we can build networking. Networking used to be getting on the phone, pounding the pavement, knocking on doors. I mean, I watched an old 1950 Chevy commercial, or Chevy sales training commercial for the salesman. It was like, you got to get out there and find those Chevy people, knock on those doors every day. But now we have ways to do that remotely.
I would say, and certainly these habits are ingrained since the start of the pandemic. I mean, think about where we were before 2020. I mean, and 2020 came on, we had the best marketing tagline in the history of marketing taglines, because we had 2020, new vision, crystal clear vision, and everybody was going to get out. They had great things planned, and then wham. What happened March 13th, 2020? Well, we were mandated to shelter at home, and everybody started leaning into the online world, some of them for the very first time.
Right.
So what did they have? They realized, oh my gosh, I haven't even looked at my profile since I created it in 2008. Or, you know what? I had a job in corporate for 25 years. I never had to worry about building a network. And suddenly, when confronted with this urgency of rebranding or re-engineering their professional network, they were at a loss. And it created stress, it created anxiety, it created depression, it created mood swings, it created imposter syndrome behaviors, comparison syndrome behaviors. All of these things that we're talking about now have been the byproduct of placing undue demands on us because of COVID and the pandemic. And I think that has, to a certain point, dovetailed now that we're into 2023. And I know that people will be watching this a decade from now, and who knows what the next pandemic will bring. But now we realize that we can do business and advance our careers in the online world. And that's revelatory for some people.
Well, you know, there's, as an old history teacher, there's this one thing that I have seen in history. It's a weird phenomenon that sometimes the worst events create some of the best results. World War II was a terrible, horrible thing. It killed millions upon millions of people, destroyed the world, brought us to a halt for 6 years. But the technologies that we developed, the things that we did to survive that, are things that benefit us all the way until today. So isn't that a good way to look at, possibly a better way to look at our challenges now?
You'll talk to more and more people, Andrew, who feel that there are many blessings inside of the curse. And that's not to diminish the loss and the grief.
Exactly,
because in the early days of the pandemic, it was a deep, dark place.
Oh, devastating.
I mean, ghost town streets downtown. I live in the Chicago area. I couldn't go out. I couldn't see people. Nobody could. And what are we supposed to do? We're confined. And we all look online, and many people found it online. People who may not have been great with the technology prior were now just sailing across the digital divide and handling everything very well. For me, the biggest blessing inside the curse is that it allowed me to re-engineer my professional community, because when you communicate effectively online and you can advance numerous conversations forward, you start to kind of get better. You start to be able to build the human hard drive. And I guess I realized that's my superpower, is being able to manage thousands of conversations at once. And I do that. And I did it prior to the pandemic. So for me, the biggest blessing of it all was that I can put people front and center. It taught me how to truly engage with people. It up-leveled my emotional intelligence. I've always been an empath, but even more so now, because you never know what people are experiencing in their lives. And the last thing they want in the world is to be considered someone else's lead in business, because they're simply not buying. And all I've been doing since really I started in business is having conversations with people.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much that's lost when you look at somebody as a lead. When you discuss, that's why I don't tend to like to actually even call. I mean, our clients are our clients, but I like to call them our authors, because that's what they are. They're the people that are participating with us. They're our partners. Our interests are their interests. Their interests are our interests. So there's so much that can be said for looking at a relationship that way and using avenues like a book or like LinkedIn to begin to build those kind of partnerships.
I look at each client I take on as unique, but I'm a stakeholder in their success. So if they're engaging me for the work I do, on the one hand, I have to deliver. There's mutual accountabilities. But on the other side, I'm trying to give them a complete intangible. You can't put LinkedIn in your hand. You can't smell it, feel it, taste it, touch it. There's nothing tactile about it. It's out there as this big abstract gray area. And many people don't acculturate well to the online world. So my role as an advisor for them is letting them know that they're on the right track, not harp on the mistakes that they could make or the blunders that people do make, but to just make sure that everything is commensurate with their learning style, their tolerance for risk, their personality, and their attitude. Because again, we had mentioned at the outset, not everybody's going to activate on this site. But if you're going to leverage it for business development or career advancement, it's got to come from within. You got to externalize something. You have to assert force on the system.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And you can't let it pass you by either. You actually have to take the initiative and make the moves to do these. Like we did when we were in the situation with the pandemic coming down on us. I mean, we were a distributed workforce, so we survived, but 2020 was our best year. And part of the reason that 2020 was our best year, because we pivoted to LinkedIn. We looked and said, okay, we can't do the things we've done before. we have to find something new. So in many ways, this is something that we're building that's going to now be an infrastructure that's going to serve us for a long time.
And you're setting the example. I think we all found out what change management truly is. It was, as of March 2020, change management was de rigueur. And if you didn't adapt well, it was truly an adapt or die phenomenon. And a lot of people got steamrolled, and a lot of people didn't make it. They could not reclaim the momentum they lost. And they're still piecing it together to this day. And it's going to go forward for them. So I believe that the habits, again, are ingrained. LinkedIn is well established. It is king of the hill in social media. It has really survived all of the crap that has befallen some of the other major sites. It is around the business conversation. It is still a politically correct site where you go to develop business conversations. And that's what I teach. It's complex. It has some mystical qualities to it. I don't know how the thing works. I can't explain the algorithm to anybody. I look like I should be the guy who should understand the algorithm, but I really don't. I'm at a loss for it, like a lot of people are, and I try to do things that appease the algorithmic gods. But you know, the amount of information that flows on at any given second across LinkedIn is tumultuous. It is incredible, and it's only going to get more crowded, and the clutter is only going to get deeper. So I'm on record as saying now, Andrew, that you cannot cut through the clutter until you become a part of it.
Well, I think everyone should, but let's say that they're still kind of early on in the process. You know, there's so much that they benefit from asking for help. Because I'm hearing a lot of this. There's a lot of things that you can do for somebody that wants to go on LinkedIn and they have maybe 30 people that are followers and they don't know what to do. It's like there's people that can come to me and they say, well, I want a book to replace my business card and also to integrate with my LinkedIn, but I don't know how to do it. I can help them do that side. So what do you say to the benefit of being able to ask for help? Because some people don't want to.
Anybody in business is out to influence an outcome, whether it's to sell a product, provide a service, advance a career, either a new or a better job, to find mentors, to be a mentor, to serve on boards, to be a podcaster, to be an author, speaker, etc. You have to really understand what's at the end of the road there and where the journey is going to take you, and who are the people who can be most instrumental in serving your journey. And those are the people that you align with and look for fit. It all comes down to alignment and fit. So the first thing that I would tell anyone, regardless of their level of LinkedIn literacy, is what are you trying to accomplish? Who are the people who can get you there? What strengths and skills do you have in place to make it happen? What do you need to acquire along the way? And these are the folks that you ideally want to bring into your community. Problem? There is a problem that there's a lot of driftwood in everybody's networks and communities. We've all accepted invitations from people who can't serve us, who have no economic value to us. And yes, it's okay to admit that people do have economic value to us, but we don't know how to go from there. Many relationships stagnate. And I think the key to successful LinkedIn use is obviously knowing where you're going, but messaging the people respectfully, integrally, and letting them know that you're there to serve them as much as you'd like to be served as well. So mutual benefit, reciprocity, golden rule, giving to get, paying it forward. These are desirable terms. And for the most part, connecting with other people, making introductions on the behalf of others. Social networking really defines as leveraging these platforms to create and drive relationships. And it's not necessarily your relationships. It's the relationships of people that you love, admire, and respect in business.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those that are listening to us right now, and let's say someone's listening right now and says, okay, you're right. I've let LinkedIn lapse. I've only got 100 followers, but I want some practical steps right now to be left with while I leave this podcast. What can I do tomorrow to start changing my LinkedIn presence, start actually weaponizing this for use for my business?
Well, it's an incremental transformation. And one thing I will tell the listeners / viewers is not to put pressure on them and try to do too much too soon. Obviously, I'm a student of the LinkedIn profile. I have watched this document evolve, and I do consider it one's most valuable brand asset in the digital world. It should be tended to. You cannot do the hunting until you do the farming. So I would have everybody get a cup of their favorite caffeinated beverage tomorrow morning, sit down in their best chair, and really, with pen and paper, do it old school. Don't write it on a word processor. Just start writing things down about themselves that the people with whom they most want to meet must know about them. In other words, if it's a buyer, if it's an employer, if it's a collaborator, joint venture partner, publisher, as in the case of you, what do they most need to know? And if it's not currently in the LinkedIn profile that you currently own or front, get it in there somehow, because that's what's holding you back. So many people have just not let the great content about themselves pass through the century. And once you do, once you're comfortable putting yourself out there at face value in a way that you'd like to be consumed, that's right there. That's half of it. The other half is getting people to take you seriously, getting them to your page and getting them to act on something, whether it's your LinkedIn invitation to connect, whether it's your request for a Zoom call, or whether it's to pass your resume up to the decision maker, the hiring manager. So I think that's a good first step. It's a mindset shift like anything else. I am an advisor who believes in the power of the mind. I've noted several mindset shifts that we've had since the onset of the pandemic that are going to stick with us, I think, from here on out. And that is, if you go in with an opportunity mindset, it's amazing the kind of things that will emerge, and you will start to extrapolate what you need to the real world. And it's almost impossible to not make good things happen when you enter it with the right frame of mind.
That's awesome.
I'm living proof of that, by the way.
Well, so, and so are we. And, I sit there and I think about that. We were in that position. And I'll tell you what, our first step was to ask for help and to go out and to get an expert to help us. So let's say our audience is saying, I want to take that step. I want to go get that expert, and I want that expert to be JD. How do they find you, and how do they contact you?
Well, it shouldn't surprise anybody that I do have a LinkedIn account, and I am searchable.
I was thinking it was going to be Facebook. Or how about MySpace?
Yeah, really. TikTok.
Yeah.
I am searchable under my initials, JD, no periods, on LinkedIn, but I'm sure that may even be provided on our page here. So I would say if folks message me on LinkedIn and mention that they heard me on your podcast, right there, I have a sense of familiarity with them. They're like family to me. So I'm happy to chat with anybody, set a time on Zoom with them and hear what they're thinking. Again, it comes down to alignment and fit. If I'm a good fit for someone, an engagement will flow. I think I can do marvelous things for people. I really can. I know the platform. I've studied it rigorously. I don't speak like experts who are self-declaring experts on LinkedIn will typically say lead generation, double, triple, quadruple your stream of leads into your pipeline, 10x your income, deliver massive results. I don't buy into the bloated promises or hype. I'm a guy that says, okay, I'm not the 10 minutes a day guy on LinkedIn. You're going to have to work it a little harder than that. But with the right thought partnership, I can get you on the right path.
Well, fantastic. And ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. It is JD Gershbein, and he has been a fantastic guest for us. We wish him the best. JD, pleasure.
Thanks for having me, Andrew.